Hello everybody. Day 3 of 30 days of KNIME. So today we're going to be looking at getting data from the database. KNIME has many nodes to connect to the database depending on your database type. I'm using PostgreSQL, so you'd use the appropriate connector for that. Now looking at the configuration, it does populate this because that's the relevant information for the PostgreSQL connector. The port usually that's auto populated as well. You need to give it your host name and your database name and your credentials. So once you have that, you can connect. And once you get the green, you're good to go. So there are two ways to use SQL in KNIME. So once you have your node configured, you can either write some SQL code to bring in your data, or you can use KNIME's many nodes that do in database processing of database data. So let me show you the first method of writing SQL code first. For the first method, you need to get a database query reader. So with this, you connect it to your connector node, and you can go in and write your SQL statement. So over here, it's just going to take a second to load. It's going to show you what tables you have. So this is the test DVD rental database. Let's click on inventory. If you click on a table, then it shows you the columns in that table. So I have my inventory table here. Let's say I want to know the inventory ID, store ID, and the last updates information for each movie, but I don't have the title. So I have to perform a join to the film table to bring back the title. So you can write a SQL query to do that, all within KNIME, so you don't have to bring the data externally. So you just write okay, so select the inventory ID, store ID, last updates from inventory, join the film table on inventory.film, ID equals the film ID. So that should work, and we can evaluate this to make sure the code works. And I do have an error. The last update is ambiguous, so there's probably another table. Maybe the film table has that column as well. So I need to specify which table that's coming from. Inventory dot last update. That should fix it if I spelled it right. Okay, perfect. And I forgot to take the title. So okay, so I need the film, the title. Okay, so that's the table I want. And you see how I forgot a couple of things? This is part of why the second method is very, very powerful. But anyways, I've got this now, so I'm just going to run this. So one method is to write your query. You can do that easily. KNIME does help you out with the error messages if you have forgotten something. But let's say you actually don't know SQL. Let's say programming is just not your thing, and maybe in your company you usually have to wait a couple of hours or maybe even days to get your data because someone has to write the SQL to extract it for you. This is where KNIME I think really shines, or where it's really, really powerful, because you don't even need to write SQL code to get your data from the database. So to get the information we used two tables, right? We can actually use some nodes in here to bring in those tables. We can use the table selector node to bring in the columns that we want. So we get 2 of them because we're selecting 2 tables. So here we select the table that we need information from. So the first one we took information from is the inventory table. And the second table we need is the film table. And we need to perform a join. There's also the node to make a join. You don't have to write it yourself. So sometimes I need to join like 10 tables, and in those situations I'll usually use a hybrid. So I'll probably write SQL code for some parts and then use these nodes for other parts. And I think it's really good. So we're gonna join on the film ID from the inventory table, that's our left table, to the film ID on the film table, which is our right table. We don't want all the columns. Let's say we don't want the film ID. And for the film table, honestly, we don't want anything. We just want the title. So see how I selected what I want in both tables? And now this is all going to process in database, so it's going to be remarkably fast. It's done already. So if I want to do some more things, let's say I want to do some aggregations, I can do that as well, or I could just read my data in. So the node used to read out your data is the DB reader. So once you've done everything you need to do, you can use the DB reader to read out your final data. So once I run this, I have my data, which is more or less what we had in when we did it this way. All right, so that's a wrap for day 3. I hope you've been intrigued by this database capabilities of KNIME. I know it's one of my top favorite things about KNIME, and I hope to surprise you and even impress you with more notes in the future. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you in day 4. Goodbye.